algorithmic trading platform in Rust. I'm filled with regret. I would love it if this article was like, I'm filled with regret for not doing it sooner. Like, how funny would that be? All right, Austin Starks, take us on a wild ride. I was a young, hopeful Rust fanatic. On paper, Rust seemed... Okay, this is not seeming very pro-Rust. This is not pro-Rust at all. On paper, Rust seemed like the programming language designed by the gods. Not only is it the fastest programming language out there, it's also one of the safest. Well, technically, it's really hard for Rust to actually be the fastest language out there. It's very easy for it to be not fast. In fact, it's quite optimized to be not fast due to the safety. But hey, C++ is not faster. C is not faster. None of the languages are faster. Anything that's at the tippity top, just remember, right? The top of the performance pyramid is going to be filled with managed memory language. So you got Rust, you got C, you got Zig, you got C++. I'm sure there's other ones. NIM might fall in there. But the reality is the reason why Rust often goes from the fastest to the next level is because you use things like RCs, ARCs, and mutices to effectively get around Rust, right? Or more so, clone. Yeah, I guess Odin would be in here as well. So this is like a very typical, this is like the typical problem here, right? Wait, people don't use arcs in C++. I mean, you use arcs if you use shared pointers in C++. And if you look at the bottom of this, if you look at the bottom of the pyramid, you find a snake and a big yellow square. Golang falls into these two categories, right? Go is fast, right? Once you have runtime managed memory, which is RCs and arcs, it's no longer fast, right? You fall down into you fall down into garbage collected, right? I put a heavy emphasis on garbage collected because there's not garbage collector, but you're no longer managing your own memory. You are letting something else manage your memory. Java doesn't exist, it's just a fantasy. It is. Where did Java hurt you? I'm not alone in thinking Rust was this perfect language. If you read about Rust programming language online, you'll likely encounter overwhelmingly positive opinions. Every guide on Medium, every post on Reddit, every answer on Stack Overflow, everything is glowing. I can't wait to catch a bullet by this. I feel like I'm about to catch a bullet by Rust. Given this, I decided to migrate away from TypeScript, rewrite my entire open source algorithmic trading system in Rust. I gave Rust a neutral rating before. I take that back. Dang. Okay, I really hope that we get some really good ones, right? I hope we get something really good here. By the way, if you're doing algorithmic trading, I would assume you'd want to be able to react really, really fast. So I could see you using I could see why Rust would be a natural decision. Typically, you don't want to do algorithmic trading in slower, garbage-collected language because a couple hundred milliseconds could cost you the trade, right? Just real talk. That it makes sense why you'd want to use something that's better than TypeScript. I wrote about my experience with Rust 4 months ago. In my last article, I concluded that while I really like the speed and some aspects of the language design, such as enums and strong typing, I didn't really love the language. What you're discovering is that you don't love imposed safety. That's what you're discovering. My article has met with harsh criticism on Reddit, including one highly upvoted comment that accused me of ChatGPTing to write my article. Dang. This is a lot of upvotes for something that is literally isn't true. I don't use ChatGPT to write any of my blogs. I just simply don't. I hate how it sounds. This is just how I write. Nowadays, I don't even use ChatGPT to correct my writing. This is genuinely my writing style. Dude, I'm right there with you. I actually tried to use ChatGPT to help me with some stuff, and it just became very frustrating. It became very, very frustration. What if he is a robot? Ooh. Anyways, after posting, I had thought that I didn't give Rust a fair shot. Maybe I was just naive or came in with misplaced expectations. Now, after working with the language for a little while longer, I can confidently make one conclusion. The language absolutely fucking sucks. I think the language is great. So maybe I'm not that intense, but dude, this is funny. But I've always said I think Rust feels better than it is because when you're solving a black box problem, it's like really, really easy. It's really, really great. He can still turn it around. There's some things that make Rust really good at. Like, I love it for basic command line operations, along with like marrying that with some like file reads, transforms and stuff. It just is really good for that. What I despise about Rust, let's see. If you want to find an article about what's right with Rust, look literally anywhere on the internet. You'll be hard-pressed to find anything less than neutral about the language. This article will be focused rant about what I despise about this crabby language. All right, let's see if we can figure this out. Horrendous, verbose, unintuitive syntax and semantics. Yes, when you get into this level, this is what I always say. The moment you start getting into this world, this is where things start getting like good Rust becomes shitty really quick. Like really, like once you like when you hit into like, dude, a pinbox dying future is crazy. Like this is crazy. It's Haskell dressed up as C-like language to trick normies. Haskell has this exact same problem. Yeah, that's due to async. I know, I've always said async is where things just get all effed up. And the moment you get into async land and you try to do something that's really clever, dude, every single time, what is this? Okay, so send means it can go across async boundaries, correct? And then plus tick underscore means the unnamed lifetime, if I'm not mistaken. This is where I start breaking down too. Is once we start getting into this world, this means it can cross async boundaries, and it can and it has a lifetime that you don't need to that we're not mentioning, right? So that means the function that you're passing in, f, is a mutable function that takes in a client session that returns a future at some point in the world that can be crossed over the boundaries and has an output of R, where R is send and static. Async is very hard. It's very, very hard. Yeah, like I generally get what I'm looking at here. It's just that once you get into this world, it's just super hard. Like generally speaking, it gets very, very hard. All right, so all of this looks pretty good. All of this looks pretty good. None of this looks like, see, the rest of this looks pretty good, right? I would say that everything else in here just looks pretty straightforward, right? Anybody who ever said that Rust doesn't have atrocious semantics is lying to your face. See, the thing is, I think one thing that's really nice though that you're kind of missing is the fact that you can go operation, session, await. If it's okay, we do this. If it's not okay, we do that. Like, I think this is actually really nice, right? I think that this is a really nice thing. And then you have a for loop. You have all of this. It actually reads really nice. Like this part, this is what I'm talking about when Rust looks really good, is this right here. This is really nice Rust. And there's a lot going on here that is actually shockingly crazy, right? You have to start a session, which awaits something. You have to start a transaction, which awaits something. You then have to do this operation, then match on the errors. And if you get the error, then you return out the result. Else you're going to go max retries exceeded. This is nice code. It's this part right up here that just gets so effed up. This part gets so effed up. There are certain things where if you don't have access to an extremely powerful large language model, then writing the function becomes literally impossible. I don't want to spend 90 minutes figuring out where clause in my run transaction. Let's see, figuring out the where clause in my run transaction. Yeah, the where clauses become exceedingly frustrating. I'm on your team, and if you define your generics in the wrong place, run clauses can be super frustrating. They can become super frustrating.
So now we're back at the freeCodeCamp JavaScript algorithms and data structures beta main
type
page.
system
We just
gets
finished
away with a lot
the
is
learn the
because
date
it's garbage
object
collected.
by building
It
a
can just
date
simply drop
formatter
some of these difficulties.
course, and now we're on
that's
to
that.
our first
Yeah, the large language model is
certification
an interesting,
project for the
is a very
beta
interesting
for
call out saying
the
unless I have
JavaScript beta
access to
course.
this,
Build a
to me it says you
Palindrome
just need
checker
to understand
project.
more about
All right.
Rust internally for you to be able to
So
do
this
this.
is
And so this is that language curve. You know, I jokingly made that video where I said Rust learning curve is like this. Once you hit async, it's non-differentiable. It's because this like skill issues here. The problem is that the borrow checker when you're learning is like a steep, it's like an upright curve and then you get it and that's it. Once you get the borrow checker, it's easy. But then when you add in lifetimes, it's like another just upright curve. And then when you add in async, it's like just it goes off the table. And it becomes so hard. Because it's just really difficult when you marry all the concepts of lifetimes, of traits, and of async. When you put these all three together, now you get this whole problem that's really, really difficult, and it is most certainly a skill issue. It's most certainly a skill issue, but it's a very excessive and difficult skill issue. So the Rust curve is the Debian logo? Exactly, right? My God, the curve is non-functional. Yeah, I know. In the end, I had to abandon the idea of a helper function entirely. Yeah, so again, that's because you're writing it the not Rust way. Don't write a helper function. Can we all agree? This is one of those things that I always made a problem of, is that in JavaScript, you abstract out these similar functionalities across async operations. In Rust, you don't want to do that because you will find that you hate your life. You do. You find that you hate your life, and it sucks a whole bunch because you do this, and you have to like be okay with code duplication at some level. Or you have to be a genuine master of Rust, or just give it to ArcMutex. ArcMutex makes it very easy. Oh, I read that one. Okay. You say he's also making it complicated by using Mongo transactions. I'm not sure if that's true. A lot of people want to use, by the way, this code girl, I can see your experience is showing right here. Wrong duplication is better than wrong abstraction. Absolutely. Hands down, 100% correct. Because you can always fix an abstraction. You can always fix code duplication with abstraction. Very hard to fix abstraction. By the way, I forgot what else. Oh no, my cam died. My cam died. It actually wasn't my camera. It's my what do you call them? My HDMI converter. Hold on. Almost there. Almost there. Whoopsies. Hold on. Hold on. There we go. I blame Karen. I thought it was my Linux. Nope. There we go. You're moving again. There we go. There we go. All right. In the end, I had to abandon the idea of a helper function entirely because I quite literally couldn't get the code to compile. Yeah, I mean, dude, I've made this mistake a lot with Rust, and I feel like you make the same mistake with Zig as well. I think the problem, I truly think the problem here is what I would like to refer to as JavaScript brain. JavaScript brain, or really dynamic language brain. Dynamic language brain says abstract on all forms of code duplication. And so you kind of adopt this without realizing it. You adopt it really quickly. And also a big problem about dynamic programming along with structural programming such as Go is that you adopt structural patterns and you think a certain way. You think in interfaces. And again, Rust does not necessarily make traits easy. And Zig, they don't even have traits. They don't even have traits. They don't even have them at all. And so it makes things really hard. What's the meme with like the four people talking about something, and then there's the last guy that's like, you guys have interfaces? What's that meme called? Dry is overrated and people overuse the concept? Absolutely. They use it constantly and it is very, very dangerous. It's true. I've been coding in C89 lately, and I find my JS brain really leads me into the wrong, into some bad places. Yeah. What is it called? We Are the Millers. Oh, yeah. This one. Something along the lines of like JavaScript, TypeScript interfaces are great, right? Golang, it's something along like the lines of Golang structural. I am sure there's Python. I'd have to think about this more, but this is happening. I gotta think about this still. I know there's a joke in there, so we'll make the quick and easy joke, which I'll just grab the first one, right? I know sometimes bro cooked for nothing. I know there's something there. There's something there that's really good, and I don't know what it is. Zig, draft shit post. Yeah, it's a draft shit. There's definitely something there that's really good. It's just it's gonna take too long to think about, and so we say move on. Okay, this is not what it looks like. What people claim as Rust's biggest strength, a strict compiler to eliminate errors, is one of Rust's biggest flaws. Just give me the garbage collector and let me do what I want to do. Real talk. This is real. This is absolutely real. Rust's biggest strength is also its biggest weakness, which is also very reflective of all other ones. JavaScript's biggest strength is the fact that you can just add a property to anything. JavaScript's biggest weakness is you could just add a property to anything, right? Like every language has the exact same problem, right? In contrast, if I were writing this exact same function in Go, it would look like something like this. Well, Go is actually really great though. I mean, Go gives you the abstraction ability of TypeScript with the 99% speed of Rust. It's very impressive. Run transaction, do all this one. Yeah, start a client session. There we go, defer session end. Yep, do all this thing. Grab all that good stuff. Do this one. Yep, this is all looking good. Grab all this stuff. Oh yeah. Do the returns, do the attempts max. Yeah, Go is just so simple, right? Go is just so dang simple, right? It's just so simple. That's what makes it so fun. So easy to read and understand. It really is easy to read and understand. And all the people, I see a bunch of people saying, if error equals nil, blah, blah, blah. If we were to do this in TypeScript, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those would be hidden errors in which you would not know you need to catch or not. So you would just get randomly borked, whereas at least in Go, I know when I'm about to get borked and I can handle it, okay? So come on, don't even try that with me. Come on. While the core of the function remains relatively the same, you don't have to do backflips to figure out how to make the dang code work. It just works. Agreed. Horrendous error handling. Ooh, that's interesting. I would kind of argue, my only problem, I will say this about Rust. One of its big problems is that due to the question mark operator, you defer a ton of error handling really easily. The convenience of not handling an error is so easy that I often find I think less about errors, and I often find myself oopsie-daising. It's skill issue. Fair, please. It's a skill issue. But nonetheless, I find it so convenient that I forget to like really think about how I should handle this. Rust does have some very nice things with errors, as long as you avoid unsafe unwraps. Well, yeah. You can be a damn sure that the code will run and keep running. No pointers exceptions and unhandled errors just don't happen anymore. Yay, right? Wrong. Because when your data is wrong or something unexpected happens, you'll be fighting to figure out what the hell happened. Maybe I'm just an idiot and can't figure out how to enable stack traces, but when an error happens in my application, I have no idea why. Well, I mean, backtrace equals 1, right? Rust underscore backtrace equals 1. Am I incorrect on that one? I don't think so. Right? Yeah, definitely some skill issues on that one. For prod, why not? I mean, if you're gonna have exceptions, why not have a trace? Assuming that you handled 99% of your exceptions or your errors, and this one you couldn't handle, why not? Like, I totally get when you have one and you handle it, you don't need a stack trace, right? By the way, this also would be largely this also is very nice to consider with asserts, right? Running a bunch of simulations and asserts and ensuring that you can't have these kind of things. You can really figure out a lot of your application before you actually have it running with actual money doing trading. You know what I mean? I still use XX errors and %W for stack traces and Go. See, I haven't used XX errors. I just still use errors and pretty much do wrap stacks still, right? In contrast, I actually like Go's handling, right? I like the fact that you don't have stack traces. Instead, you just build your own stack. And I build my own stack, and so I get all the relevant bits in where the error happened, and I actually find it to be really nice. Like, generally speaking, I find it to be very nice. In contrast, with a language like Python, you get these beautiful art-like stack traces that tell you exactly what happened, down to the line number. Even in Go, you have errors wrap, which enable you to look at the entire error stack in your application, which is only the places you're really concerned about, which is also nice. Perhaps I'm a goddamn idiot, because when I encounter an error in Rust, I'm in La La Land trying to figure out what happened trying to figure out what the hell happened. Well, I could not read that. Again, I'm going to say it again. The question mark operator, due to the extreme convenience of it all, I think leads more people down this. There's this concept. There's a very important concept in programming that you need to internalize, which is called the pit of success. You want to make it so that doing the right thing is so easy that people just fall into the right move. And that's one of the problems with Rust's extremely convenient error handling, is that a lot of people just question mark out the errors really quickly. And so you end up handling an error like 10 functions higher with absolutely no indication into where this error happened. And I see this a lot. I see this quite a bit. I'm not saying that if error is better, if error equals nil is better, but at least you have to think about it a little bit more holistically in Go, even though it's more boilerplate. You have to think about it. You have to wrap it. You have to add context. It's also why I like Anyhow. I can add context at every level. And by adding context at every level, I get Go-like error handling, but with the convenience of Rust, right? A dyne error is just crazy. Don't do dyne error. A dyne error is nuts. Anyhow, in this error, friends, yeah. I need this ePrintLN littered throughout my application. In fact, no, I'm not an idiot. This is a flawed language design. I think this is just, again, I think he's just, when you use Rust, you don't fall into the pit of success. And by not being in the pit of success, I think it's very easy to blame the tool as opposed to the knowledge of it. And remember, I'm not, at this point, I am not a Rust lover. I am not a Rust lover. I think it has a lot of things going for it, but I actually think that Zig is significantly better. I think it gives you the right amount of safety with giving you the right amount of control over your program. I think it's the best of both worlds. And I would say that this right here is definitely much more of a skill issue that's very obvious. Like, you goofed up. You goofed up. Hey, dude, it took me like a year to really get a good grasp on errors in Rust, like to really understand a nice way to handle Rust. It took a long, whoopsie daisies. It took a long time. And so I definitely don't blame that at all. Krabby community, hot take, the Rust community isn't as nice and cool as they pretend to be. Absolutely. Rust community is probably, I would say, the least friendly. Zig might be the least friendly community, but then Rust is right afterwards. I think JavaScript and TypeScript generally have a pretty friendly community, right? Like, I can PHP has the nicest community. We can all agree to that. Anyone that disagrees that PHP is not the nicest community, I would like to mention Adam Elmore and Aaron Francis, okay? You cannot beat Adam Elmore and Aaron Francis as the nicest people in the universe. Yeah, PHP is a very nice, they're super, super nice. Very, very nice community. And I would, like, the reason why I'm going to Laravel is that Laracon is that I am obsessed with how well and how good their community is, and I want to learn from it. I want to bring it in. I want to bring it to the mainstream software world where we can stop, like, where we can actually be a lot better. Like, even notice this. I'm not dunking on this guy. I'm not being mean to him. I'm saying, hey, this is a really natural conclusion I think a lot of people run into. I'm fully on his team. I'm trying to bring the goodness of that PHP community outside because I think it's really healthy and I'd love to see more of it. And I agree fully. I think the Rust community, specifically in the more leadership roles, are some of the meanest people I've ever interacted with in my entire lifetime. Like, absolutely the meanest people. It is shocking. It is shocking how much of their superiority. Now, there's some good ones. I can think of, it's Shepherd, something Shepherd. I can see his name. Dude, his name is like Derp Shepherd or Derp something, Derp Shadow. Oh, gosh, why can't I remember his name? Really, a Shep Master. Derp. Yeah, Derp. Really nice guy. Shepherd's Oasis. There you go. I actually think he's a really nice guy, and he's an exceptionally talented person, like outrageously talented, and still like communicates in a really nice way. Like, I actually think that it just genuinely a huge amount of respect for the guy, right? Absolutely, huge amount of respect. All right, because MongoDB is shitty. MongoDB is not a real database. It's a key value doc stored and no squeal storage system that literally designed for marketing metrics. It didn't even provide support for ACID or transactions until more recently. And for the longest time, it just blindly corrupted your data due to its poor queue to write design. There are better databases. Don't make Rust look bad for using MongoDB. I mean, this is actually just terrible advice. I mean, really, the thing that he was struggling with is having helper functions, which is typically, I find to be very difficult for doing a retry over some async operation, right? You could generalize this to retry over async operation. And Mongo not going to make it, for sure. Mongo not going to make it, but this response is wild, right? But again, I'd also like to say that random response on the internet is not reflective of the community. So just remember this, that I don't think, you know what I mean? Someone just said something and it's very, very true. I think generally speaking, when I think of the Rust community, I think of,
we say like the letter A in here and check it, it says A is a palindrome right here. So we're going to have to start off by saying an else if, since we already have this one if statement here. So if it's not this, all right, else if, we're going to do something else. All right. So what do we want to do? Okay, let's put this. All right. Now we're doing freeCodeCamp, JavaScript algorithms and data structures beta, build a palindrome checker project, user stories, number 5. All right. So when the text input ID element only contains the letter A and the check button ID element is clicked, the result ID element should contain the text A is a palindrome. All right. So yeah, for this one, we're going to have to make it to where when we say like the letter A in here and check it, it says A is a palindrome right here. So we're going to have to start off by saying an else if, since we already have this one if statement here. So if it's not this, all right, else if, we're going to do something else. All right. So what do we want to do? Okay, let's put this here while we're at it. We don't want to like go through the whole alphabet and say, is it A, is it B, is it C? You know, we don't want to do anything ridiculous like that. So what's an easy way to do this? I say like this, check it out. If we do the text input value, all right, so whatever this is, dot length, all right, if we get the length of the value and it's just 1, we can do, we can have it say whatever we want right here, all right? So let's say something like this. Let's say text input dot value. Let's just grab this. Actually, let's grab this whole thing. Now, we don't need the quotes. So let's grab this stuff right here. Drop it off in here. For the value, after the value, let's say dot length. All right. And then let's say if the length is 1. All right. So if that's the case, what we're going to do here is we're not going to just return something. We're going to have to change the result. All right. So we've got result here, and that corresponds to the result div. So as we learned in the previous sections, whenever we want to change the text of like a result or any kind of div, we just change the inner text property of it. So we'll say something like this. We'll say result dot, let's bring it back. Result dot inner text is now going to equal. And since we're going to have to put whatever's in here, we'll use a template literal for this. How about that? Let's put the backticks like this. And then let's start off with an embedded expression like this. Whoops, like this. And inside the embedded expression, let's put the text input dot value, right? So let's grab this right here and drop it off right here, right? So if it's the letter A, check it. See, it says A right there, but we needed to say A is a palindrome. So we'll say after the embedded expression, space is a palindrome, like that. So let's check the code again. Say after the embedded expression, like this. And inside the embedded expression, let's put the text input dot value, right? So let's grab this right here and drop it off right here, right? So if it's the letter A, check it. See, it says A right there, but we needed to say A is a palindrome. So we'll say after the embedded expression, space is a palindrome, like that. So let's check the code again. No. Oh yeah, let's put the A in there. Check it like that. Check it. A is a palindrome. Looks like it works. All right, so let's go to the console. Come down here. Run the test. When the text input element contains the text I and the check button element is clicked, the result element should contain the text I is a palindrome. All right, so it looks like we're good on that. So now we're on to user stories number 6, and we'll see you next time. All right. Now we're doing freeCodeCamp, JavaScript algorithms and data structures beta, build a palindrome checker project, user stories number 6. All right. So when the text input element contains the text I and the check button element is clicked, the result element should contain the text I is a palindrome. All right. So for this one, we're going to have to do another else if statement. Pardon me. So we'll do else if. All right. And so for the condition on this one, we're going to need to check if this right here, the text input dot value equals the same thing reversed. All right, so let's do a triple equal like that. So to do that, let's drop it off one more time. We're gonna have to use the reverse method on this, like we learned in the last section or the last course. But the thing is, to get it reversed, this right now, if it's in this, is going to be a string. But to use the reverse method, we're going to have to make it an array and then reverse it, and then we're going to have to join it back together, right? So to split this thing up to make it an array, we could use the split method like we've been doing, but I don't like using that thing. I don't like it because it's just, I like splitting it. I like using the split method when it's like for split it by the commas or split it by the hyphens, but for just split it by the just split every character into its own thing, into its own element, I like using array literals. So we're going to put text input dot value in an array, and we'll say dot 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 in front of it, right? So let me show you what this does. So let's make an array like this, and let's have a string in there, whatever, all right? So if we have this string and we do a console.log, on this, let's wrap this up in parentheses and say console.log. Open up the console. You see we have what? What's the problem? Hold on. Oh yeah, we gotta put this here. All right. So you see we have this string right here, all right? And that's cool, but look what happens when we put the spread syntax in front of it, dot, dot, dot. Just like that, we don't need to use the split method or anything. It's just like that using an array literal, right? So let's get rid of this. So now we know that this is going to be split up into an array. So now let's use the reverse method on it. Let's say dot reverse, all right? And then now that we know that it's reversed, because we did that in the last one, let's join it back together, dot join by the empty string, because we don't really need spaces or anything in there. We can just join it like this. So if this equals this, what we're going to do is say the text input dot value is a palindrome. So let's just take this result right here on 9 and drop it off here on 11. And that should do it. Let's go check I right real quick. I like that. Check it. I is a palindrome, so it looks like it works. We've already got the console open. Let's come down here, run the test. When the text input element contains the text underscore I and the check button element is clicked, the result element should contain the text underscore I is a palindrome. All right. So it looks like we're on to user stories number 7. And we'll see. All right. Now we're doing freeCodeCamp, JavaScript algorithms and data structures beta. Build a palindrome checker project, user stories number 7. Number 7? Yes, number 7. So when the text input element contains the text underscore I and the check button element is clicked, the result element should contain the text underscore I is a palindrome. All right. So for this one, we're going to have to clean up the text input dot value, because right now, if we do underscore I and put it in there, nothing's going to happen because it's not a palindrome according to this thing, right? So what we need to do is we're going to have to use the replace method on the text input dot value to replace anything that's not a letter or a number, lowercase or uppercase letter or a number. Replace all that stuff with what is it, like blanks, not blank spaces, with empty strings, right? So the thing about that is we're going to have to do it here, and we're going to have to do it here. So since we don't want to repeat ourselves, because why would we want to type twice? We're going to create a variable up here, right? So we'll say const replace, replaced like that, all right? So we'll say equals. So what we're going to do here is we'll get the text input dot value, all right? Let's take this, put it right here, and then we're going to replace. We're going to say dot replace, all right? I think we went over replaced before. In place. So what we're going to do here is we'll get the text input dot value. All right, let's take this, put it right here, and then we're going to replace. We're going to say dot replace. All right, I think we went over replaced before in one of the courses before, but anyway, if you need a refresher, we've got a dot. So what we're going to do here is we'll get the text input dot value. All right, let's take this, put it right here, and then we're going to replace. We're going to say dot replace. All right, I think we went over replaced before in one of the courses before. But anyway, if you need a refresher, we've got it right here. Basically, all it does is we're going to put a string dot replace, and then we'll replace what we find right here with what we want to replace it with. But what we're going to use is some regex like this, like looking for dog, and replace it with ferret. So here's dog, case insensitive, all right? So here's dog, and then ferret right here. All right. So for that, what we're going to do is we'll start off with the regex, all right? But the thing is, it's not going to be as simple as this. We're going to have to use a character class because we're looking for any letters or numbers, right? So character classes, let's come over here. Character classes are these brackets. Whenever we use regex and put something in brackets, it's going to be a character class, which matches any one of the enclosed characters. But we don't want to match, we don't want to just type in all of the punctuation and stuff. What we want to do is match anything that's not a letter or a number, right? So what we're going to do for that is use the negated or complemented character class. That is, it matches anything that is not enclosed in the square brackets. So when we put a caret in front of whatever we're trying to not match, we will not match it, all right? So for that, we're going to have the brackets first, all right? So we put the brackets here, and then inside here, we're going to do the caret, which is shift 6 like that, all right? So now inside of this, we want to match A through Z, capital A through Z, all right? And we can't put a space in there because if we put a space, it'll say don't match spaces either. And we want to match the spaces, all right? So we're going to have capital A through Z, then we're going to have lowercase a through Z like this, all right? And it knows when it sees a capital A through a capital Z that this hyphen is part of this thing right here of the range, all right? But if we just put another hyphen at the end, it would also not match hyphens, just to let you know, all right? And then we're also going to do 0 through 9 like this, all right? So now it's going to not match all of this stuff right here. So we want to go, we also know that regex, if we do regex, it'll only match it one time unless we put the global search flag. So we're going to put that G, where is it? The global search flag, the G, right after this slash right here. So we'll put the G like that. So now it's going to match it more than one time. So anything that's not an A through Z, capital A through Z, lowercase a through Z, or 0 through 9. All right. So now let's go back to replace. We're going to have a comma and replace it with something. All right. So we'll say comma after this G, comma, and we're going to replace it with an empty string like that, just so it, deletes the character, right? So let's come down here and I'll show you what's going on. So let's do a console.log and let's say a string blah with some numbers and some spaces and some punctuation and some more letters and some more punctuation, right? Now let's do replace, and let's just take this so it, deletes the character, right? So let's come down here and I'll show you what's going on. So let's do a console.log and let's say a string blah with some numbers and some spaces and some punctuation and some more letters and some more punctuation, right? Now let's do replace, and let's just take this thing right here. Let's take all this and then let's just drop it off right here. And let's open up the console. Come on now. Come on now. What's the problem? Replace. All right. And so you see right here, it took all of the punctuation and spaces and all that stuff out of there and just left us with numbers and letters, right? We can even put some capital letters. Why not? And look at that. All right. So there's that, proving that it works. So now we've punctuation and some more letters and some more punctuation, right? Now let's do replace, and let's just take this thing right here. Let's take all this and then let's just drop it off right here. And let's open up the console. Come on now. What's the problem? Uh, no, dot replace. Dot replace. All right. And so you see right here, it took all of the punctuation and spaces and all that stuff out of there and just left us with numbers and letters, right? We can even put some capital letters. Why not? And look at that. All right. So there's that, proving that it works. So now we've got this thing going on, this replace thing. So now let's change these two up. All right. So let's change this with replaced. Let's take replaced, change this one with replaced, and let's change this one with replaced either. But remember to leave this one here, because let's say it's like a bunch of punctuation and stuff with the letter A. We don't want to switch it. We don't want to change the length of the thing. Okay, we don't want to do anything like that, or do we? No, we don't. We don't. Because I mean, if it's longer than one, it'll do this on it regardless. All right. So now let's come up here and let's punctuation and stuff with the letter A. We don't want to switch it. We don't want to change the length of the thing. Okay. We don't want to do anything like that, or do we? No, we don't. Because I mean, if it's longer than one, it'll do this on it regardless. All right. So now let's come up here and let's put underscore I to see if we made it work. Check it. I is up. There we go. So this is a palindrome. Looks like console. Come on now. All of the punctuation and letters, right? So now we've got this thing going on, this replace thing. So now let's change these two up. All right. So let's change this with replaced. Let's take replaced, change this one with replaced, and let's change this one with replaced either. But remember to leave this one here, because let's say but remember up. All right. So let's change this with replaced. Let's take replaced, change this one with replaced, and let's change this one with replaced either. But remember to leave this one here, because let's say it's like a bunch of punctuation and stuff with the letter A. We don't want to switch it. We don't want to change the length of the thing. Okay. We don't want to do anything like that, or do we? No, we don't. Because I mean, if it's longer than one, it'll do this on it regardless. All right. So now let's come up here and let's put underscore I to see if we made it work. Check it. I is up. There we go. So this is a palindrome. Looks like it's good. Let's run the test. So when the text input element contains the text not a palindrome and the check button element is clicked, the result element should contain the text not a palindrome is not a palindrome. All right. So it looks like we're on to user stories 8, and we'll see you next time. All right. Now we're doing freeCodeCamp, JavaScript algorithms and data structures beta. Build a palindrome checker project, user stories number 9. We're actually on 9 on this one. We're skipping 8 because what we just did on the last one took care of this race car is a palindrome, all right? But it's still going to be called step 8. Whatever. Anyway, whatever. We're on this one right now, right? So when the text input element contains the text not a palindrome, the check button element is clicked. And the check button element is clicked. The result element should contain the text not a palindrome is not a palindrome. All right. So this one's pretty easy. All we're going to do is an else statement. So we'll say else right here. And then right down here, let's just take all of 13. All right. Copy that. We'll drop it off here on 15. And then we'll change text value. We'll drop it off here on all of 13. All right. Copy that. We'll drop it off here on 15. And then we'll change text input.value is, and then we'll say not a palindrome. All right. So let's come up here. And let's put something that's not a palindrome in there. Check it. This is not a palindrome. Looks like it works. So let's open up the console. Come down here, run the test. So when the test input element contains the text a man, a plan, a canal, Panama, and the check button element is clicked, the result element should contain the text a man, a plan, a canal, Panama is a palindrome. All right. So it looks like we're on to, where are we? 10. So it looks like we're on to user stories 10, but it's going to be step 9. And we'll see you next time. All right. Now we're doing freeCodeCamp, JavaScript algorithms and data structures beta. Build a palindrome checker project, user stories number 10. All right. This is step 9, but we're on 10. If you saw the last video, you know what's going on. All right. So when the test input element contains the text a man, a plan, a canal, Panama, and the check button element is clicked, the result element should contain the text a man, a plan, a canal, Panama is a palindrome. All right. So for this one, what we're going to do, the problem we have on this one is that this A is lowercase and this A is uppercase. So we're going to have to change them all to lowercase so that when we do this replaced equals replaced, it's going to, what's the word? It's going to come out, everything's going to be lowercase, all right? Because right now, those uppercase letters are ruining everything for it. So for that, what we're going to do is in front of this replace right here, we're going to add a 2 lowercase. So we'll say text input dot value dot 2 lowercase, all right? And then we'll have the little parentheses right here. Now this will do it for now, but let's clean it up a little bit, all right? Because right now it's still going to be searching for these capitals, which there's really no point in that since everything's going to be lowercase now. And also we need to, at least I think we need to make this variable name reflect the change, all right? So instead of just replace, we're going to change it to lower, lower, replaced like this, all right? So now it kind of says that it's not only replacing stuff, it's also making it lowercase. So we'll copy that. We'll change replaced here to lower replaced. And we'll change this replaced to lower replaced, all right? So now let's get this Amanda Plan Panama thing. So let's get this right here. Copy it. Let's put it inside of here. Check the code. a man, a plan, a canal, Panama is a palindrome. All right. So let's open up the console and copy it. Okay, so we'll copy that. We'll change replaced here to lower replaced. And we'll change this replaced to lower replaced. All right. So now let's get this a man, a plan, Panama thing. So let's get this right here. Copy it. Let's put it inside of here. Check the code. A man, a plan, a canal, Panama is a palindrome. All right. So let's open up the console, run the test. Look at that. So yeah, we didn't need to do any 17 steps on this one. We got through this in 9. All right. So that's good enough for me. I hope it's good enough for you. Let's push that thing again, run the test. Looks good, and submit it. All right. So now we're done with build a palindrome checker project, and now we're on to learn modern JavaScript methods by building football team cards. And we'll see you next time.
I just come back to this picture often, and I can't undo it because once it's in the brain, it's just stuck there. It's just stuck there forever. I'd really love to see a turnaround in the community and be a little bit more approachable. For example, I asked the question on the Rust subreddit how to improve error handling with MongoDB Rust Crate. My answer ranged from switch to Postgres. Why am I using MongoDB at all? MongoDB is bad in Go and Python too. And actually helpful suggestion to improve error messages. Okay, that's good. That's good. I always find this strange. When somebody asks a question, how do I handle this situation better? I've always found it such a strange answer to be like, use Postgres. Like, I will say that to Dax or to TJ, but I would never say that to an internet random person. You know what I mean? That just feels weird. There is no other programming community that's as cult-like as Rust. They ignore all the giant glaring flaws with the language, like its crazy learning curve, verbosity, horrible error messages, crazy syntax, and questionable language design choices. They'd rather say it's a skill issue with the developer. That's insane to me. I do think you're definitely having some level of skill issues. I think one of the hardest parts about writing in different languages is adopting the mindset of that specific language, and it's very, very hard. And so I'd revisit this maybe a bit more. Like, I'm on board with you that I don't think Rust fits all situations, but I think that horrible design choices, I actually think that a lot of the design choices are really good. I think there's a lot of really cool things. Like, dude, what's it called? Impl from and try from is like one of my favorite things of all time. Yeah, he's doing it solo with no mentor. Yeah, that's very, very hard. Impl from and impl try from is probably my favorite design feature of all time. It's so good. It's like shockingly good.
Next time. And we'll see you next time. Now, so now we're done with build a palindrome check